A question has been set before the covenant text. In the resurrection from the dead, is the transformation of the covenant faithful participation in the uncreated life and energies of YHWH by gift? Or is it a change of our own substance from created to uncreated? The lead verse rises first as a warning. Ezekiel chapter 44, verse 12. Because they ministered to them before their covenant-defiling idols, and caused the house of Israel to fall into depravity, therefore have I lifted up my hand against them, declares Adonai YHWH, and they will bear their depravity. The surface text is cautionary. It names a specific danger, to confuse the creature with the Creator by serving something that is not YHWH, as though it were the source of life, is covenant breach. So whatever the resurrection brings, it cannot be the deifying of created substance into uncreated being. That would collapse the very distinction covenant faith guards. The first word is offense, and the rest of the text walks inside that fence. The drawn text does not speak abstractly about substance and energies. It speaks concretely about portions, offerings, inheritances, and the consecrated things of the sanctuary. That concreteness is itself an answer. The text is saturated with priesthood and consecration, with inheritance and identity. The words return the questioner again and again to the priestly economy, the holy portion, the measured land, the appointed place. In Leviticus chapter 10, verse 13, the priests are told they will eat the consecrated portion in the consecrated place, because it is their prescribed portion and their son's portion from the sacrifices of YHWH made by fire. The priest does not become uncreated by eating. He receives what has been made holy through fire and is thereby sustained in his created being, consecrated for service. Participation is by gift, received through the mouth, not by the transmutation of the priest's own substance. This is a direct answer in figure. The created one is nourished by what has been consecrated and remains a creature, now set apart. The priestly pattern reaches a clear statement in Leviticus chapter 11, verse 44. You will therefore consecrate yourselves, and you will be sacred because I am holy. The logic is not that you cease to be what you are. You are set apart because the Holy One is set apart. The creature is called to mirror the Holy One, not to absorb the Holy One's being into itself. The likeness is covenantal, not substantial. This is the grammar of the whole covenant: nearness without absorption, likeness without identity. The same pattern runs through the inheritance text. Joshua chapter 14, verse 3, records that the Levites were given no covenant inheritance among the tribes because YHWH himself was their inheritance. Inheritance is not annihilation of the creature into the Creator. It is the creature being placed in a relation of nearness to the Creator. Even the city portion in Ezekiel chapter 45, verse 6, is appointed opposite the priestly offering of the holy portion, a measured space, created ground, yet consecrated. The gift is a place to stand, not a loss of standing. The resurrection question is answered by contrast in the verses that speak of rest and sight. Psalm 94, verses 12 and 13, blesses the one whom YH disciplines and teaches from his Torah, so that he may give him rest from the days of adversity until the pit is dug for the covenant wicked. The faithful one receives rest. The pit receives the wicked. The verse does not describe the faithful becoming uncreated. It describes being brought into rest, a state of dwelling, not a change of essence. Luke chapter 3, verse 6 says all flesh will see the salvation of Elohim. Flesh will see. Flesh is not discarded or transcended into something else. Flesh is the seer of salvation. The healed one in Acts chapter 3 rises and walks, in the same body, now empowered. There is no hint of substance replacement. The verses about covenant-defiling idols press the point. The recurring concern is that Israel would treat created things as the source of life, and that this is always covenant breach. The question asked of YHWH is whether resurrection transformation consists in the covenant faithful becoming uncreated in their own substance. The weight of the drawn text presses against that. The alternative the text holds out is participation by gift, priestly nearness, inheritance, consecration, the eating of the holy portion, the blessing that comes through the lifted hand of Aaron. The blessing flows through created flesh without changing its nature into uncreated being. The mathematical verdict is yes on the topical axis. The pattern polarity of the drawn text affirms the first option of the question. The cautionary lead verse is the pastoral warning against the second option. A change of created substance into uncreated being is the very error against which the covenant-defiling idol polemic is aimed. The text returns the questioner to the priestly economy: consecration, inheritance, the eating of the holy portion, the flesh that sees salvation. All of these are created realities indwelt, blessed, and sustained by the uncreated. One tension should be named. The text does not use the later language of energies and essence. It answers by pattern. The priest receives, the flesh sees, the inheritance is given, the blessing flows. What is created remains created and is filled with the life of the uncreated by gift. The alternative, a change of our own substance from created to uncreated, is the path of the covenant-defiling idols, and the lead verse lifts the hand against it. So the answer is plain. The transformation of the covenant faithful in the resurrection is participation in the uncreated life and energies of YHWH by gift. It is not the uncreating of the creature. It is the creature fully consecrated, fully inheriting, fully blessed in the presence of the Holy One. The ark has come into the camp, and the table is set. The priest eats the consecrated portion in the consecrated place. The faithful one is disciplined into rest. All flesh sees the salvation of Elohim. The lead verses drawn in this altar of reception session were Ezekiel chapter 44, verse 12, Ezekiel chapter 45, verse 6, Numbers chapter 1, verse 1 to 3, Genesis chapter 4, verse 7, Leviticus chapter 23, verse 35, Leviticus chapter 22, verse 24. 94 further verses were drawn in this session. This concludes today's interpretation at the altar